Hello and welcome to our broadcast. As a reminder, the information provided during this event is for information purposes only. For any medical questions, please reach out to your primary care or care professional. I'm your host, Leanna, National Student Advisory Board member with work2well.org. Work2well is a direct response to the community requested resources after the rise in teen suicides in the Pacific Northwest. The organization activates students through our Student Advisory Council model, which in Oregon launched students to national attention for their creation and advocacy of a mental health bill. Joining me today during this event will be Gabriela Robles, Associate Vice President of Community Partnerships at Providence and Chief Executive of the St. Joseph Community Partnership Fund. So to get us started, Gabriela, can you tell us about your roles at Providence and what do you do in these roles?
Well, hi. Well, good afternoon. I'm looking forward to our conversation today. So I have the opportunity and the honor to lead the St. Joseph Community Partnership Fund. And the fund, as we call it, is really the strategic grant-making vehicle for our system and regional initiatives focused on housing, education, disaster, and capacity building, both for the nonprofit sector and for the community.
That's awesome. It seems like you got a lot on your hands. So, what do you imagine that you might be when you grew up, when you were my age?
You know, when I was in high school, I did experience a lot of pressure from my family. My family immigrated from Mexico. And the pressure was that, I needed to define who I wanted to be and what I wanted to do with my career. But all along, I knew I wanted to serve. I knew I wanted to work in the community. But in high school, all I can think of was law. That was the path that I knew was directly a way to impact the community. But looking back, I knew that my focus and my passion was the community, but I didn't know exactly how that was going to play out.
Yeah, I can totally see that you kind of went down that path of serving people, and that's awesome. So, as an MBA student, what drew you to grant making and community investments?
Going to business school was a decision that I made years after I was working in the nonprofit sector and working actually at a foundation here in Orange County, California. And I went into business school because I wanted to gain some of the skills and tools that I could then apply to the nonprofit sector. The vision that I had at the time was that I wanted to gain these skills to help women start up their own businesses so that our women can be more independent and have more options in how they want to lead their lives. And so it was a very rewarding experience in business school because I had the opportunity to lead the student venture fund. And I really engaged in a lot of grant making and investment in that role, and I learned a lot.
I absolutely love that. There's not much more I could say. So, how did you become involved with so many different kinds of organizations, from Merrill Lynch, to the Clinton Foundation, back to community health?
Yeah, so I went to NYU, so the school's in the city in Manhattan. So I had the opportunity to interact with financial institutions such as Merrill Lynch and the Clinton Foundation. And while I was at school at Stern at NYU, I interviewed for an internship, for a summer internship. And so I worked at Merrill Lynch. I interviewed and was offered a position to help with their global philanthropy work. And so I learned a lot about the financial services sector, and also really had an opportunity to do more work globally and internationally, which was a great experience. With the Clinton Foundation, my second year, I was really focused on small business development. And so I had the opportunity to work with the Clinton Foundation. They had a small business initiative in Harlem at the time. And again, I was able to work with a Jamaican food factory in the area. And I really had the opportunity to meet with President Clinton, which I didn't expect. And he actually came to the Jamaican food factory, and we walked him through our work, analysis. And that gave me the perspective that as a funder, how great to provide tools to the sectors, in this case was small business, but also to the nonprofit sector, and that it's not just about giving out money, but it's really to provide those tools to help our communities thrive and be well positioned to serve the rest of the community at large.
Wow, you are really a role model for a lot of women, and you inspire me to get involved. So what are the biggest hurdles that you overcome?
You know, if I think about business school, I was a very what you would call a non-traditional student in that business school. I came from a history and political science major background. Again, I thought I was going to be a lawyer, and so that was the track that I followed as an undergrad. And I did have a lot of experience in the nonprofit sector. So by the time I went to business school, I really had a plan in place, but I was considered non-traditional. I didn't come from the financial background or even the engineering background or operations. So the hurdle was I had a lot to learn. And that environment is very competitive. First year, you're trying to get that internship, and second year, you're trying to get the job. And so, given my worth ethic and my commitment to why I was there in business school and my focus, I went to a lot of tutorials. I asked for help, and I learned a lot along the way.
Well, I'm so glad that you persisted, for sure. So did you ever feel there were gender barriers as you began to go after leadership roles? If so, how did you get past them in order to reach your level of leadership?
That's a very good question. So, given that I'm Mexican American and a woman and a child of immigrants, I dealt with the challenges as a young girl of what it meant, what my future might hold for me because I was a girl. And, this was a very traditional setting that I grew up in. And so I had the opportunity to participate in programs in school, like Upward Bound, for example, in high school, which was an opportunity to learn about college and a way for me as a student to kind of bring my parents along and understand that as a woman, I had the same potential as my brother. And fortunately, there was a lot of support within the school system and my church to give my parents that sense and that openness about what does it mean to be a woman who is focused on the career path that I had. And working in the field, especially in the financial services at Merrill Lynch, it was very male dominated. But there was, again, a lot of support within the organization, the company at Merrill Lynch, with women leadership groups and others that really helped to mentor us how to best be at the table and be well positioned to have influence in decisions. So really a lot of gifts and learnings from mentorship and support in general has been very helpful for me.
That's amazing that you had a support system, for sure. So have you ever been told that an idea you had and believed in wouldn't work? If so, how did you move forward?
There's a lot of ideas that I've had in the past that people thought, "Hi, Gabriela, just focus on your day-to-day work." I have to go back to business school. I have to go back because I had a vision. My husband went to business school, but he's very focused on finance and hedge funds. And here's me thinking, I could apply that to nonprofits and I could actually see that work. And so I remember a lot of my colleagues and professional mentors were saying, well, do you really want to do that? Because it's a very structured program. Maybe you want to do, public administration or public health. But I had a plan, and that's who I am. I had a plan. And I had met with a lot of different nonprofits before I made the decision and realized, yes, this is where I need to go. And I knew that the challenge was going to be that I was not the typical business school student, but I also was able to go in there with a plan and maximize the courses, my engagement with professors, and my internships, at the Clinton Foundation at Merrill Lynch, all really helped me really get me to where I am today in serving the.
Yeah, that really shows when you have these hurdles, like all you gotta do is persist and go through when you have your plan.
Very
Um,
true.
I know. So did you ever go through times when you doubt yourself? If yes, how did you get through it?
Every day, every day. You know, that's part of life. It's really how you manage that doubt. You have to acknowledge that we all have doubts and we all have insecurities and we all have some fears. And so I let those thoughts and feelings play in my mind. And then I usually take a deep breath and say, okay, put those aside. Let's move forward. And that happens both in my personal life as a mother of 4-year-old twins. That's crazy. And at work, because there's so many changes in healthcare. So I believe that there's a lot of support where I work and there's a lot of openness to my ideas, but I have to be in a place where I can communicate that. And so the only way I can do that is acknowledging the doubts, but also just kind of putting them aside and moving forward on a daily basis.
Yeah, I definitely just want to echo that. Like, we all have our doubts, but we can choose, like, sometimes they help us, sometimes they don't, but sometimes we just gotta, like, put them aside, keep our head straight, and move forward.
Yes, definitely. And no, we're going to fail. I mean, there's going to be moments where we're going to fall and fail, but that's
Mhm.
okay. You learn from that and you move forward. And that's what I've learned in my life.
Yeah, so what is the best thing about being in the leadership role with community partnerships?
There's so many things. I mean, the fact that Providence is such a mission-driven organization, the legacy of the Sisters of Providence and the Sisters of St. Joseph of Orange is really the foundation of the work that we do every day in community partnerships. The title of our division, Community Partnerships, we're in partnership with our leaders, with our regions, and in the community, and recognize that we can't do anything alone, but we can do so much more together. And it's such an honor to be in this division because my colleagues, the caregivers in this division, are amazing. Everyone is passionate, committed, intelligent, and has great ideas. And imagine having that type of force and then coming to the community and working in partnership with community residents, organizations. Nothing is impossible. We can do anything we want to do. And that's what I really believe in our division. And every morning when I wake up, I'm like, I wonder what we're going to do today. So it's definitely exciting, and there's never a dull moment in the work that we do.
I am so sorry. I got distracted. My dog just came into my room, busting through my door. But it's okay. That keeps things real here. We're in quarantine. I'm in my room. So sorry if there's a bit of noise from my door. Maybe when you're speaking, I'm so sorry. I might have to get up.
No worries.
But let's continue with, I have so many more questions. So are there any particular stories that you would like to share with us about some of the work that has been done?
You know, one of the things that's very recent and current is how, as a division, as an organization, we responded to COVID. It's about a year now, right, that we experienced COVID from the beginning. And we were under the leadership at the time of Joel Gilbertson and Justin Crow. Justin brought us together as a division, and we acknowledged that we needed to do an immediate response to the needs of the community. And so we launched a $600,000 grant program. And we worked in partnership with our region, specifically our community health investment regional directors, to identify those organizations and get those dollars out immediately. So those dollars funded everything from food pantries to emergency services to interpretation services. Because you can imagine, a lot of our communities, English is not their dominant language. So we wanted to make sure that all of our community members were aware and knew that they had our support. As the work progressed, we engaged in conversations with these grantees, as we call them, the organizations that we funded, because we wanted to understand how else can we support you? And they're the experts. And we talked to the residents as well. And what came out of it was there was going to be a need for us to support the nonprofits and their collaboratives. These are organizations, they come together and they do good work, but they recognize because of COVID, they needed to understand how best to do their work in this environment. So again, through the support of our leadership and the fund board, we were able to release an initiative to support collaboratives, not only with dollars, but technical assistance. And I share this story because at Providence, we have the opportunity to respond quickly, but also to still remain focused and remain in the community to seek to understand how else do we address these challenges. And again, in December, we recognized our communities were struggling for food insecurity. There was a lot of food insecurity. So we released $1 million within 4 days in partnership with our regions again and our community health regional directors. We were able to get those dollars in the hands of food pantries throughout the system to provide much necessary needed food in the community. So that just gives you an example of the dynamic environment that we're in and how we are able to serve and respond in many ways.
Wow, Gabby, you were doing absolutely amazing things. Like I don't know if you can tell, but I was just in awe. I was like, oh my God, like $1 million in 4 days. That
Yes,
is crazy.
it wasn't easy, but
Yep.
we got it done because we knew that was a priority in our community and we wanted to be responsive.
Awesome. So how do you keep yourself inspired, especially over this past year of hardship with COVID?
You know, I think it has to do with resiliency. I mean, growing up, we had many challenges, financial challenges, health problems in my family, in my community, a lot of challenges. So I had that sense of coming together and having a positive outlook, realistic positive outlook. But today I look at my kiddos, you know, they're 4 years old and they have no idea what's happening. All they know it's about cartoons and snacks and Play-Doh. And then I look to my colleagues who are so committed and they don't give up. And I think about our doctors and our frontline team members who are serving on a daily basis and not giving up hope. So my way of coping with it is to keep a positive outlook, to be safe and to encourage others to do the same and wear the mask and hopefully get that vaccine. It's been tough. It's been about a year now. So it's definitely pushed us outside of our comfort zone. But I believe that hopefully within the next couple of months, we're going to be in a better place. So it's really seeking support from my family, my colleagues, and being inspired by so many people.
Awesome. And I'm not sure if it's the same or different, but how do you keep your staff just stay motivated?
What was the question again? I'm sorry.
So what about your staff? How do you help to keep them motivated?
Yeah. So a number of my team members have children as well. And so we were committed COVID and during this time to be flexible and to take care of each other. And so as you can imagine, the example that I gave you, we all had to really focus and get the work done. And that might mean one of my team members was going to do it at 11 p.m. because he has 3 boys. Another team member has a baby. She just turned 1, and I have twins. We also have other members who are busy with their families. And so we made a pact. We agreed that we were going to jump into this together, but also let each other know when we're struggling and when we needed a little bit of space. And so it's having that open communication and having that sense of community that has really helped us do good work and still be present for our families.
I love that you're giving them those times and understanding that during all of this, you do have other things going on.
Yes.
I love that. And you balance all of this with being a mom, like you said. And how do you find your work and life balance?
So I don't agree with the work-life balance because that means that I would position myself to fail. There is no way in my life, and I'm assuming in many people's lives, that you can put things in a box, in a silo. Everything we do is integrated. And so the way I strive to be able to be a mom, a spouse, a friend, a colleague at work is to be present, to recognize every day in the morning and check in during the day. What are those priorities? And how do I best address them and be present? And that may mean, just like your dog walked in, I could be in a conversation and Juliana or Rafita, my children, will jump on my lap. And work continues. And so I understand the concept of work-life balance and what it strives to do, but I don't think it's realistic to aim for something so perfect. It's really about recognizing your priorities of the day, your values, and being present in everything that you do. That's my
totally understand. Like during life, we're always improvising. We're not always like, at this time, I'm going to do this, and everything's going to go perfectly fine. Like I said, my dog jumps in. My little sister had to come like crawl in and grab it out of me saw. But that was absolutely hilarious. I couldn't stop laughing. So we're always improvising.
Yes.
What do you do when you need advice or moral support?
Um, you know, I do many things. I try to go for a run if I feel overwhelmed or I just need to get away because with COVID, we're kind of stuck indoors. I do have special friends in my life that know me very well. They know my vulnerabilities, they know how I'm driven, who give me a reality check when I need it. And, my husband and I have been together almost 30 years. So he knows a lot about me. But I think what's important is acknowledging that you need to reach out. It's acknowledging that at one moment, you just can't do it alone and to seek help. And that's what I learned to do. I used to try to do it all by myself or figure it out on my own, and it got me nowhere. And so recognizing that you're part of a community and that you have people who love you and that you could be vulnerable has been very helpful for me to manage those moments of stress or those moments where I don't know where to go, have been very crucial and important in my life.
Same here, Gabby. Over the past few years, I've learned that it's okay to be vulnerable because sometimes we do need those help. We can't always hold things over our shoulders 24/7. And even during quarantine, like you said, like even though we're socially distanced, we still are able to call people for our health and for our own mental health.
Exactly.
And one last question. Oh my God, this has gone by way too fast. What is one piece of advice you can give to a young woman starting out in her career path?
If looking back, I wish somebody would have told me, um, don't stress out so much about what you want to do or who you want to be when you grow up. Really get to know who you are and what are those passions and what is it that you get excited about. And even if it's something that no one's brought to your attention or that you're getting pressure that you should be a doctor or the attorney, is to recognize that the gifts that you have are unique. And what I've learned is if you follow your passion, and that passion will then help direct you in what you pursue in your career, where you're involved as a volunteer, where you choose to work, success will follow. Because what's important is that your passion and being true to who you are is the most important thing that you need to be true to in order to be happy and in order to feel like you're making a contribution to society. And it took me a while to figure that out. I didn't agree with people telling me one thing or the other, but I wish somebody would have just said, just relax, listen, learn, talk to people. And little by little, you'll start having more clarity as you move forward in deciding where you're going to apply to college, where do you want to go to college, and what career you want to pursue.
And it turns out we actually have one more question that someone asked, which is Leanna, which is me. What do you want to do when you grow up?
Yeah.
This kind of relates to what I just asked you from being my age, and it 100% echoes yours. I am very passionate about mental health. I don't know from our setting if that's already true with being worked to be well. Um, I absolutely love psychology and neurology. I don't know if I want to go into neuro or psych, but right now I really want to go into psychiatry and I want to help people because I don't know, just learning about the brain fascinates me. Learning to think about what that person is going through in their head, I just find that really cool. Like to put it that way, like I don't know if anybody's ever watched the movie Inside Out, but it's like the question, do you know what was going on in someone's head? Well, I do. And for me, psychology is that answer. And when I get to know what's going on inside that person's head, because we can't always read people's minds, um, knowing psychology would help people when they're not in their best moment. And I would love to help people.
I think that's beautiful. And the fact that you are in a leadership role with Work to Be Well. And, you've been part of that work. And as you know, it's expanding outside of Oregon, thanks to your leadership and your vision. Demonstrate that this might be the space that you want to pursue. And so you have the opportunity to talk to, to a neurosurgeon or a psychiatrist or a psychologist, and to really help you think about what are those aspects that you want to pursue in your life. And I think you have so many options. I'm so excited for you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, Abby, for joining us today, and to everyone listening, sending in your questions. To learn more about our initiatives, programs, services, and ways to give, please visit providence.org. For more information on Work to Be Well, visit worktobewell.org. And make sure to follow us on social media at Providence on Twitter and under Providence Health System on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.